Hello everyone, my name is Chelsey and I am the volunteer director of Be Historical, also known as Bloody Historical. And I've had a lot of questions since our interview that we had about our nonprofit with the Kelly Clarkson show and a few others. I mean, gosh, we've taught Joey Fatone how to fire a cannon and now been on Kelly Clarkson's show. I feel like we're checking off that bingo card. But I wanted to talk about me and what I went through over the last year because I've been missing from events and not everyone knew what happened. So I am now what's called an amputee. As you can see, I'm missing my left arm. I do have a little bit of the shoulder. It's kind of like a built-in stress ball now because there's no muscle in it. But being an amputee does not change who I am. If anything, it shows that we are way more resilient than we think we are as people. So my story starts on September 28th of 2023. I was riding to work on my motorcycle. I had a 1986 Honda Rebel 250cc's, very small bike, just me on it. You know, it was great to ride to work and take a little ride around town, like nothing fancy. I didn't even take it on the highway. I was on Route 44 heading to work from a doctor's appointment, and there was a truck barreling downhill the opposite direction. I was coming up from a red light, and he just caught something, and it tore my leather jacket clean in half. It actually cut my bone clean in half. My arm got instantly ripped off, and it was laying in the middle of the road, supposedly giving a middle finger upon its demise. So, you know, lefty. So, anyway, I realized I was in an accident, so I was like, I'm gonna pull over my motorcycle, and I'm squirting blood out of my arm like Monty Python trying to pull over my bike. And as you can expect, I got dizzy from blood loss and started to pass out, so I kicked the bike out from underneath me. And I can't say that I walked away from being hit by a truck, but more rolled and skidded very quickly away. So a college student was driving behind me, which I am too old to think college students are attractive unless they're my age. So I'm just going to picture Chris Pratt or Tom Hiddleston for this journey. And he apparently ripped his shirt off and made a tourniquet out of the shirt. And that's amazing that a civilian would go to that point to save somebody. That is right there. If you know him or heard of him or know his name or anything like that, buy him a sandwich at least. Like, that kid, he's a hero. He really is. A cop showed up on scene a little while after and put a, real tourniquet on me. And then decided that obviously the accident was my fault. Unfortunately, there weren't any photos of the accident or an accident reconstruction, so he kind of just said we both have to pay our own damages and go our own ways. I was told I was going over 80. I don't think my motorcycle could actually go that, but So I personally don't believe I'm at fault, but we all have our own perceptions of reality, so my perception is valid, as is the driver of the truck and the cop. Anyway, I was brought to the hospital, and then I was airlifted from there to UMass. And if you were curious how much one of those wonderful Lifestar helicopters cost, and I don't remember a thing from it, but it was $87,000, I believe, was the total. We talked him down from that, luckily, but whew, more than our cars combined. So I arrived at the hospital just after my arm. My arm was actually being held in a yellow bucket. At least that's what I picture in my head. I have no idea if it's yellow, but it should be yellow. But it was, my arm was in a bucket, and because they were deciding whether or not they could save my arm and reattach it, if it'd be worth it. And the anesthesiologist who had the pleasure of holding my arm and my hand is now engaged to my sister, which is incredible. So at their engagement party, I did say, I gave you a hand, and then I leaned over to my sister and said, hey, he saw me naked first. Anyway, so they decided that my arm and hand were pretty beaten up. There, multiple broken bones, barely any actual scratches on the surface besides the one clean cut here. So it's interesting how you can't tell what's going on inside the body sometimes, and that was a good example of how broken my arm is, even though it looked fine. And when it got ripped out all of my nerves in my spine. So this is actually paralyzed here. So even if my arm was attached, I wouldn't be able to do anything with it, which is kind of sad. So I had more chances of getting a prosthetic to be able to go back to normal life. And most prosthetics are for looks, and some of them actually will open and close and do a few things. Mine just does this, but I keep breaking it, so I'm not sure if I should have a privilege of having a prosthetic or not. Anyway, so in the hospital, the first week was, of course, on and off. It was a big struggle to see if I would pull through, which I did, and I did have to relearn how to write, walk, all that stuff. When I first started talking after my accident, my first words were, and I quote, "Do I still have two titties?" Now, if that doesn't sum up the importance of womanhood in America, I'm not sure what else would. Arm, who cares? I can get a new one. But boobs, I must have my boobs. So, I eventually realized my arm was missing, and I woke up one day and leaned over to my husband, because he was always there with me in the hospital, and said, I can't feel my left arm. Is it still there? And he goes, "I'm so sorry, honey. You don't have your left arm anymore. It was lost in the accident." And I went, "Oh, so I have a nub?" And he said, "Yes." And I went, "Cool." And then I fell back asleep. And that was the longest conversation we had about my arm loss. So, resilience is something that I define as our stubbornness to keep going on. And people say that resiliency is very, I guess it's not rare, but it's not also understood. It's hard to explain. But I apparently am a resilient person, mostly because what I said to somebody when they asked me how I kept going is, well, what choice do I have? It's either you lay down and die, or you push forward. And I am a strong believer in pushing forward and being stubborn as heck. And yeah, all right, fine, whatever. I lost my left arm. But you know what? I can because it's paralyzed, I could stick anything on here and it would be a prosthetic, like a lobster arm. I could just do a cool Star Wars arm with gears and stuff, steampunk. I can have fun with it. I can accessorize. And my future goal in my house is to have a button that I hit, which, folds down a wall like in James Bond, and all the arms are there, but instead of, pew pew arms, it's army arms. So, anyway, I wanted to also put it out there that I am very open to talking about my situation. If you are going through a limb loss or a new disability and you want to talk to someone, gosh, I'll video chat you anytime. You can vent and talk, and I will be there to listen. Because if we do not support each other in this new world that we're heading into, then what else can we have? So that's just a little bit of my story, so you guys kind of understand what I'm going through. And if you see me at an event and you see that my left arm is just kind of hanging there, it's because it's a prosthetic, and it ratchets into place, but it's a little weird. I'm still new to it. Anyway, so again, I'm Chelsey. I am the director-ish, volunteer co-founder of Be Historical, also known as Bloody Historical. That's our 501c3 name. So please, if you wanted to help our mission, visit our website at behistorical.com. You can also send us an email, info@behistorical.com, message us on Facebook, anything, and just ask us questions if you want, or anything you need help with, we're here. And we're going to be displaying a lot of history about disabilities coming up across the next year or two. So I look forward to our future and how we can grow and learn together. Thanks.